So let's talk earnings uncensored, and let's talk Eli Lilly. Eli Lilly obviously has been all over the news because of the world of GLP-1s, and Joel, we know your strong opinion on GLP-1s.
Well, hold
But
on. Yeah, I did get a lot of. We did get a lot of feedback from our subscriber base on the comment. The comment I made was if GLP-1s are going to do well because they can do much easier what good diet and exercise somehow would do better, but people don't do it. I have, and someone gave me a lot of heartache about that. A few, and I agree. There is. I wanted to look at it deeper. There is some people do genetically have a food drive, which because of their youth or because of genetics or maybe a combination of nature and nurture, that they just have a really strong food drive, and a drug that can help them get out of that. Ultimately, if it helps them reduce obesity, if it helps them feel better about themselves, and then maybe if because of it they actually do, because they're eating less, they eat better, and they, I don't know, start actually doing more exercise, it might actually be a little more positive. I think I knocked it too much, but regardless, there is something to these GLP-1s.
Yeah.
There is something to the Ozempics.
well, but also to your point, I think that even Eli Lilly's research would show taking GLP-1s on its own, or Novo Nordisk also, right, their competitor in this, is not the answer. It can help for those who feel like they're so deep that they can't even start to fix it, but you still need to eat healthy and exercise, right? And those two things are very important. It's not, right, skinny fat is still a real thing. But so anyways, that aside,
what Rob is saying is that a heavier person who exercises 6 times a week is much healthier than a thin person who doesn't exercise. The research has come out so big on that.
Cardiovascularly,
Even if
everything
your
else.
BMI or other things, that your weight, given your height, may be a little bit on the heavy side, as long as you're exercising a lot and you're eating well, you just happen to be a bit bigger, right? That's okay. So anyway, at least I hope so.
But because of people who are interested in what GLP-1s can do from a weight loss along with everything else, the demand for GLP-1s for these weight loss drugs is unconstrained. So it's not surprising that Eli has come out and said, hey, we're going to spend $27 billion in new U.S. plants. And just for perspective on that, everybody, Eli Lilly's total assets right now, their total property, plant, equipment, factories, and everything else they have is $28 billion. So what Eli Lilly is talking about here is doubling, right? Doubling its asset base in a real tangible way over the next couple of years. So Joel, you want to walk people through why maybe the market doesn't realize how this is so interesting?
So first off, straight out of the altimeter, right? We do not rely on GAAP accounting. Nobody should. Nobody worth their salt. Not Buffett, not Klarman, not Munger, right? Not Ben Graham, going back 70 years, would ever rely on GAAP accounting. There's the nonsense, meaning generally accepted accounting principles and the way it's talked. And this is just an example. So the orange is the actual GAAP as reported EPS under generally accepted accounting principles. And for Eli Lilly, it says, how can the stock be up so much in the last several years, right, into 23's full fiscal year? How can it be up so much when, look at that orange, when the EPS is actually slightly down? And what they don't realize is GAAP accounting grossly punishes and makes a company that's investing in R&D, makes a company that's investing in its distribution centers, investing in property, plant, equipment. They completely violate the matching principle, right? And they make these costs front-ended. And so when a company is at early stages of a big growth cycle, it will make innovative companies look worse. And that's what you see. The EPS number is actually even down from 2022. And you're like, well, what's going on? Now, when you switch to uniform accounting, you actually see, one, that the blue, the uniform accounting EPS, is not only rising, but it's rising to levels that are double or triple what the as-reporting earnings number is. And then when you add Wall Street estimates, and this is the one thing where Wall Street stock recommendations are terrible, right? Wall Street target prices are ridiculous. But when you get into the deep industry information and they build up pro forma numbers for unit sales, case sales, drug sales, whatever else, honestly, the Wall Street analysts are pretty good. That's the reason why they still have a job, despite how horrible their stock picks are, is because their industry analysis is great. So we take that analysis, right? We put that into uniform accounting. We convert it and we say, if the Wall Street analysts' pro forma numbers were converted to uniform accounting, they are basically saying that this company's earnings will double and a half again going out into 2025 fiscal year. And finally, right, what does the market think? The market seems to say, we'll accept that and we'll give you a slightly higher earnings number over the next few years. So this actually means if you believe the Wall Street analysts' deep analysis, not the recommendations, but they're actually deep industry analytics on what's going to happen with Eli Lilly's drugs and what they're selling, you'd say, well, I only need a slightly higher return than that to justify their current price, which makes them kind of interesting to look at as a stock. Meaning, it could be that their forecasts are a little bit on the low side.
Especially if this company is going to be doubling its production capacity, and and all that 2025 earnings growth is not showing that yet. That 2025 forecasted earnings growth is before that doubling. They've got plenty of room. And Joel, right? I mean, we look at the earnings call analysis that we do, on these things, and we see a lot of confidence management that shows they really believe that this is going to come through.
Yeah, we run earnings call forensics. We listen to the calls. We listen with a technology called an electroaudiogram. What we've built is proprietary. Honestly, it's pretty amazing. And it literally flags not just dissonance or cognitive, I'll say, deception or deception of themselves, but it also shows when they're genuinely excited. And you see authentic enthusiasm from Mounjaro and Zepbound, meaning management truly believes that they're going to see this work, and Wall Street agrees with them. That's why you see such big forecasts for
rising earnings growth.
Fiscal year in 25, rising earnings growth, rising return on assets. You do see, I'll say, some flags on supply chain when you listen to the forensics, but that's because they're about to double, right?
Exactly. They need to fix it.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's not that they're deceptive. I'd say it's probably more that there's some dissonance because they've got to fix the supply chain issue. They cannot fund the demand yet, and they're going to have to build like crazy. And when you're going to double a company of that size, of course they're nervous. So we do pick up that nervousness. I think that's normal. The one thing I'd say is when you listen to the calls, and it's not a bad thing or a good thing, it's just that there is such importance on orforglipron. And orforglipron, if you look at that, this is their oral-based, because there's so many people still don't like shots. They just don't, they're not comfortable. Then they have an oral-based version. We'd call it an oral GLP-1, but technically it's not a peptide, so GLP doesn't fit. It's just an oral version of Mounjaro and Zepbound. And a lot of that is built in, and the company's kind of banking on it. So right now, this is zero of their sales, right? They don't have it yet. But if they have it,
it's a growth opportunity. Yeah,
and so
exactly. And that just further stacks on this to everybody to get to the point of, look, expectations are actually not out of line, especially for a company that's going to potentially double.